Good morning. It's early this morning. It's what I feel like. How are y'all? I'm waiting for it to process. Hey guys. We have a few minutes before I'm going to get started. It's weird for me to be cold, but I have the ceiling fan on and I'm cold, and I'm like usually like just burning up. So now I've got to turn the ceiling fan off. Okay. Good morning, Andale. Good morning, Carol, Diane, Tammy, Laura, Sandy, Kayla, Rita Lynn, Sherry. Good morning. Good morning, Beth. Dawn. Did I say Dawn? Chelsea. No, these are not new. These were a splurge kind of deal. I bought these. I think I bought them the beginning of spring, I think, and they were fairly expensive, but I wanted to try it because I'm obsessed with Duluth overalls, right? And these are like really, really thin compared to my other overalls. So these are actually my favorite pair of overalls that they have. It's not, they're black, obviously. So, but they are my favorite. I say they're my favorite pair every time I wear them. I'm like, these are my favorite. Oh, so like the overalls I had on yesterday, y'all, I am obsessed with that. Is it called Temu? Hang on, let me show you what I'm talking about in case you don't know. Y'all are fixing to love me. Okay. Well, how do I? Okay, wait a minute. This app right here, TEMU. Let me just tell y'all, I have just saved y'all a ton of money for Christmas. Just to tell you. This app, I have got issues with because I can't stop spending money. Okay. I'm normally not a shopper. Okay. I'm not a shopper. This app, you literally can get the nicest things for under $10. So if you have like nieces and nephews or stocking, like anything, you can go to this app and go nuts buying Christmas presents, and you'll spend less than $50 on 100 people. I'm not joking. It is okay, I'll tell you this. I have bought several clothing items, and they've been less than $10 basically, or less than 15. Every single clothing item that I have purchased from this app has been nice. I'm going to show you. Hang on. Let me show you. Hang on right there. They should pay me for doing this, right? Okay, you know this shirt that y'all like so much that was bright? $7. I got this for like $7 off the app. And it is nice. It is like slick. It's good material. It is not a cheap feeling shirt. And I got it for $7. Okay. This is like it's got a hoodie on it. I can't remember what I paid for it, but it was less than $10. And it is a nice flannel. Like, it is not cheap. And I will tell you, and I've bought a couple of pairs. It's not really overalls. It's kind of like a romper. that I had on yesterday, but it kind of looks like overall. So I decided to buy one. I actually bought 2 pair to try it because they have all different colors in them, and they're true to size. So everything I bought a size up because I was thinking it came from China and it was going to be like an extra, extra, extra small. So I bought a bigger size, and it's like a little big. So it is true to size. But I'm telling you right now that like I have bought like little chicken stuff to sell in my gift shop. Like I paid like $4 and it's the cutest chicken. It it is so like I want to go get them, but I'm not. But it is the cutest thing. But I am upset, y'all. I find myself constantly on this app going, "Oh, that's only $5. Let me get it." And then the next thing you know, I bought a gazillion things, and then I'm like, "Judy, you can't buy all that." But I'm telling you that I've not bought one item I've been disappointed with. That's how much I like this app. So I'm telling you, if you go ahead and go shopping for Christmas on that, you can get the cute, like if you have, like I said, nieces and nephews, kids. It don't even have to be kids. It can be adults because even all the adult stuff is so nice. So anyway, I'm just telling you, that you'll like it. You'll like it. Okay, what time is it? Is it time to get started? Yes. Okay, let's see. Y'all know that your Aunt Judy talks about things that nobody else will talk about because we have to hush hush about it, right? Because we don't talk about true feelings in this world because people are scared to say what they struggle with. They're scared to say, I fight depression. They're scared to say that out loud. And the reason they're scared to say stuff like that out loud is because they're scared of judgment. I need to look at okay, I'm gonna make sure they're scared of judgment. I am too. I'm not gonna just tell y'all that I don't get scared sometimes to talk out loud about things that are not like something that you talk about in a group, like things that you struggle with or things your family struggles with or your friends or whatever. It's like hard to talk about certain subjects. I talk about things that I struggle with. So usually when there's a topic that I'm talking about is usually because I'm on the struggle bus with it. And I told you guys, I don't sit here and usually plan what I'm talking about. I just, whatever comes out my mouth comes out my mouth. Like that's just how it is. Hang on a second. Whatever comes out my mouth comes out my mouth. And I don't ever know how this conversation is going to lead. And I just kind of let whatever comes out comes out. But I'm going to tell y'all what I'm on the struggle bus with. And that is death. And I've never really talked about death per se, because it's not an easy subject to talk about. It can be a trigger, if you've dealt with death of a loved one, it can be a trigger, and it's not a fun subject to talk about. It's not a warm, fuzzy feeling, it triggers emotions and stuff like that. And this week, did y'all hear that? I have a rooster in my garage. I'll tell you that in a minute. But anyway, I've not dealt this week with the death of a person. I've dealt with the death of animals. And for me, I don't know if you have animals. I don't know if you own a farm. Maybe you have a dog, a cat that you're really attached to, and you can't even fathom the thought of losing that pet. And then when it does, if you've ever lost a pet that you were super close to, it is like there's no difference in the pain of losing, let's just say, a family member versus losing your best friend, a dog or a cat or a bird or whatever the animal might be. experience the same pain that I experienced when I've had other people pass away, like in my family. And it's a very tough thing to deal with. And I don't know if I can get ready today, but I'm not sure. Am I going to turn the curling iron off like 600 times today? Or do you think that I'm going to be able to get through curling my hair without turning the curling iron off? We're going to try this. I actually, I just said that I don't plan my lives. But this morning I was sitting there talking talking to myself. I know that's weird, but I was like, what's going on in my head today? What's going on in my head? And I feel sad. I feel just I feel all alone, because when you have grief, sometimes you feel all alone. And I feel just awful. And I was like, okay, I wonder how my backup dancers feel when they lose a pet, or how they deal with grief of a loved one, like a human being. Like, how do you deal with grief? And so I did do a little homework for the first time since I went live. And I looked up how to deal with death. And it said, that death is a grieving process, which we've talked about that too. How at first you're like an emotional wreck, and then it kind of turns to anger, and it just keeps going. And it talked about that the first thing that we need to do is acknowledge the pain, which is what I did this morning, because I was like, Judy, what is wrong with you? I have cried for 2 solid days. Like, cried. And I want to know, I don't know what field you're in with work, or what line of work that you did, if you're already like retired or something. But have you ever, like, say that you let's say you lost one of your parents, and your work allows you to go to the funeral, and so you get 1 day of paid leave, and then you got to go back to work the next day, and you're like, I'm not even over this. And you work behind the counter, or you're a waitress, and you have to sit there and slap a smile on your face, and you're absolutely dying inside. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That is some hard times. And I sit here and I'm like, okay, today I have a field trip. It's not a big field trip. It's a smaller field trip. It's a group. No, it's not a group home. I do have my group home coming today. It is a homeschool, but there's only like 10 or 15 people coming, and I have to slap a smile on my face and pretend like I am just the greatest thing since sliced bread, and my life is just fantastic here on the farm. And I am grieving like a son of a gun. Do y'all get me? Have y'all had to go to work before and just grieve? And you're a waitress, and you have to go, okay, well, I get paid by tips, and if I'm sitting here bawling my eyes out, I'm not going to get a tip, and my kids are not going to be able to eat. You know what I'm talking about? Have y'all experienced that? I'm reading some of y'all's comments. Well, I'm experiencing that. And I did a video. I'm trying my best to stay on top of my videos. Normally, when I video, I am in the current situation. Like, I don't video early. I videoed like the day before I'm going to post it that morning. So everything is current. Okay. So I'm up to speed. So, like, when I talk to y'all have already watched the video or whatever. And today I'm like, I'm learning to try to video early, because what happens is life gets in the way, and you're like, oh God, I promised I would do a video on Thursday, and I can't because I have a field trip, and life gets in the way. So I have learned to video early. and then put out, like, my video is out and ready, but it's not going to post till Thursday. So then I have to sit here and keep my mouth shut because I don't want to spoil the video, right? Because I don't want to spoil the action. But when I'm live, it's like, okay, I have to tell you what's going on today, because it's just difficult. So I'm going to tell you what I've been through this week that you guys don't even know. And you're going to see my video come out on Thursday. And I hope that you will watch it and know that I want you to see how I tried to handle the situation because it was difficult. I called Kayla on the way to the vet, bawling my eyes out. So she knows how difficult this is. Okay, this is the situation. Let's see. I don't even know where to begin. Y'all know Penny Lane was on the struggle bus. Y'all already know that I had to put her to sleep. I kind of told y'all that. I have not announced that to to YouTube. So if you're from YouTube right now, was it yet? No, day before yesterday, I had to put Penny Lane to sleep. And it was difficult. And in the midst of putting Penny Lane to sleep, it started because I go out there to the piglets, and let me tell you something. These piglets are a nightmare. Let me tell you why they're a nightmare. They're cute as a bug, but they're a nightmare because I can't stand filth. Okay, I literally cannot stand my animals being in filth. Like when the barn is a wreck or the water trough's a wreck, I am like a wreck, like trying to clean and fix. And these piglets are the most, like, they're walking in their food, they're pooping in their food. I changed it, to the other food bowl that is going better. But they're still putting their feet in. At least they can't poop and pee in it now. But they are a mess. And I am constantly cleaning up after them. And it is not something like you clean them up twice a day. It is every flipping hour. It is every single hour of the day. Because if I don't, they're laying in slop, and I literally cannot stand it. Okay, so this is what happened. This is what I have been through. Day before yesterday, I had decided that I was going to, Penny Lane just was terrible. Like, she was just terrible. And I said, this is not pleasant. I had given the piglets a bath. Well, when I picked up one of the piglets and I set it down, it went like this. Like the legs went like this. And I was like, what is and I was thinking the ground was slippery, right? Because I had just picked it up and I was going to put it in the bath because it had formula all over it. It was disgusting. And I was like, they have to get a bath. And those are getting bathed every day because they're so disgusting. So anyway, so the piglet, when I put it down in the water, its legs went like this, and the other ones didn't. And I was like, why is it doing that? And I was thinking it couldn't get a grip on the bathtub. So I picked it up and I put it on the bathroom floor, and it went like this. And I was like, why is its legs doing that? So then I thought, well, maybe it's just can't, like I said, couldn't get a grip of the floor and it was sliding. So then I put it on the bath mat and it stood up. And I was like, okay, it's just slipping. It's fine. It's slipping. So I put it in the bath and I gave it a bath and everything. Are y'all proud of me? I have not turned my curling iron off. So I gave it a bath and I got it out of the bathtub and it was acting a little funny. And I dried it off. I got it into the pig pen and I was like, okay, it was up eating. So I was like, okay, it's fine. I came inside to edit a video. Okay. An hour later, I go back out there and the piglet is dead. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot handle this. I literally cannot handle this. So I immediately scooped all 3 piglets up that were alive. And I went and got Penny Lane, and I said, I can't handle this no more. I've got to figure out what's wrong with Penny Lane, and I've got to figure out what's wrong. I cannot lose another piglet. Like, this is out of control. We started off with 10, and I'm down to 3. And when this happens and you're in a farm, you feel like such a failure. You're like, God, what am I doing wrong? Is it because I put them in the bathtub? Like, what the heck? And so I scooped them all up. I went straight to the vet, and I'm sobbing like a 2-year-old. And the vet, and I are very close. Like, I am in the vet office, it seems like every week. Like, my vet bill sometimes is bigger than my feed bill. But this is part of having animals, right? And so I'm not going to cry. So I got in there, and he said, Judy, okay, if you don't know, baby chicks, like when you get them, some just die. They just die for no reason at all. Like, they just die. And you have to be tough as nails to raise chickens because, like, let's say you hatch 20, 5 are going to die. Like, 5 are going to die. That is just how it works. And then the first time you put them on the ground, 2 more might die. It's just awful. And you just have to suck it up and keep going. Like, only the strong will survive. So he began to tell me that piglets are the same way. And he said, Judy, sometimes they just die. And I said, is it because I put them in the bathtub? Did they aspirate? And he's like, Judy, no. No. And I'm like, he assured me that it was nothing that I did. Now, I don't know if he's just trying to make me feel good to get me through the moment or what, telling me it wasn't my fault. I'm not really sure. But he began to explain to me that chickens are the same way. They get coccidia when they hit the ground. If there's coccidia in the ground, and a weak chicken will get it and die within no time, and it spreads. Piglets are the same way, apparently. He said that piglets are terrible about getting a virus, and it's a virus that you cannot control. Like, you can't give it preventative medicine to keep them from getting it, kind of like a dog getting parvo, and you have to give it a parvo shot to make sure they don't get parvo. Okay, well, piglets you can't do this with. So he said it could have had a virus. So immediately he tested my other piglets, and he was like, well, Judy, none of them have a virus. He said it could be that piglet didn't develop like the other one. He's like, there's no telling what happened. So then he told me that all 3 of those piglets looked healthy. He's like, they look healthy. I was like, okay, on to Penny Lane. I said, look, and y'all saw this video if you saw it on Facebook. The thing is with YouTube is I can't post a short, like I can post a short, but it's hard for me to communicate with YouTube. So, like, don't think that I'm leaving you out. I'm just figuring out how to communicate with y'all. And I didn't want to just say, rest in peace, Penny Lane. And y'all are like, what the heck happened to Penny Lane? So I'm telling you live. So I said, look, I am not putting Penny Lane to sleep until I know what's wrong with her. I'm not doing it. I need to know what is wrong with this duck. And I don't care what it costs me. I want to know before I decide to put her to sleep. I have to know what's wrong with her. And he said, okay, let's go do an x-ray. I said, well, I've already had one x-ray. And the x-ray that was done was from my farm vet that comes to my farm. I was at a local vet in his office. So he begins to do the x-ray, and he shows me that Penny Lane was born with no hip joints. So she would have never, like, Penny Lane has walked funny since day one, since the day that I got her she wasn't a duckling, but she was young. She's always had a disability walking, which is one reason why I rescued her. And so that was the reason she was like spreading her legs out and couldn't walk, is because she had no hip joints. But she was also ate up with tumors. So it was not a niacin deficiency. It was not lack of vitamins. Truly, Penny Lane there must have been 30 tumors in her legs. It was awful. And he said, Judy, she will never walk again. And so I made the decision to go ahead and put her to sleep. But I wasn't about to put her to sleep without knowing what was wrong. First of all, for my own education, because I needed to know personally that I wasn't just giving up on her, right? Like, as a farm person, like, you have to know or I do. I don't know about other people, but I have to know in my head that I have done everything in my power to try to save this duck. And so I know personally that I thought I turned my curling iron off. I didn't. I had to know personally that I had done everything. And I know, and that's what made me be able to handle the situation to the best of my ability, is because I knew in my heart I did everything in my power to save that duck's life. I mean, for 3 months, I literally picked her up, put her in the coop, picked her up, took her out of the coop, picked her up, put her by the water, picked her up, put her by the food, picked her up, put her in the swimming pool, like all day long for 3 months. So I had to know personally in my head that I didn't just give up on her. So there we go. I had lost a piglet, another piglet, and like I said, one was stillborn. She set on 4. One had an enlarged heart, and then one just is dead. So I'm down to 3 piglets. Awful. Okay. Then that was day before yesterday. I'm losing count. The next day, I don't know what day it was. The next day, I go out there, and every one of my goats have bloat. And I'm like, what in the heck? And I'm like, what is wrong with this? And then Polka, another one of my goats, is acting totally funny. The other ones were acting normal, although they had bloat. They were acting normal, like running around, eating, like everything was fine. But I was like, I know that this needs to be addressed. And I'm thinking in my head, here we go with another vet bill. Here we go. Here we go. Like, I cannot get ahead. So I called my farrier out there because she is a goat expert. And I said, please come out here, because I knew she could come out here immediately because she lives down the street from me. I said, please come out here and help me. So she said, I'll be out there in the morning. I said, okay. I go out to let the animals out, and my sheep is limping. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I am on the point of a mental breakdown. I've lost a piglet. I've lost Penny Lane. My goats have bloat. My sheep is limping. And then I looked to see maybe the sheep has hoof rot, and it did have a little bit of a smell. So I treated it for hoof rot. But then she got to my house yesterday, and the goats, their bloat was already better, like by morning. And I was like, what the heck? So we wormed them all. We wormed them all just in case it was worms. And I can't even talk. We wormed them all, and then she looked at my sheep, and we felt that the sheep had fever in its leg, like at the bottom of his leg, almost his foot. So I knew it wasn't hoof rot. I knew it had to be an injury. Welcome to my life. So then last night, or I don't know what day it was. I'm just saying last night. I think it was the night before. My rooster, not Ace. I have two roosters that look alike. Y'all know who Ace is? The rooster with that rooster. That's Billy. Billy and Ace look just alike. I got there and Billy is not going to roost. And I'm like, I just lay in the farm and just bawl my eyes out. And Shane was like, Judy, are you okay? I went, no, I am not. I am not okay. Everything is going wrong. I'm like, I'm not okay. And he just hugged me and he was like, it's going to be okay, Judy. I'm like, no, everything is falling apart. And I have to sit here and do tours and pretend like that my life is okay and it is a train wreck. And he was like, Judy, this is life. And I thought about it for a minute and I thought, how does waitresses handle it? Like, how do they handle grief? How does, people in the workforce, like, they have one day of grievance with putting their family member down and are their animal down. Like you put your dog down and you can't, it ain't like your work goes, okay, you have 3 days to be off because your dog just passed away. No one understands that, right? No one understands that. They're like, you're crying over a dog? Yes, I'm crying over my dog. And you have to go back to work and wipe your tears away and go, welcome to Cracker Barrel. Can I take your order? What would you like? Would you like tea? And you sit there and it's with a smile on your face. I thought, okay, I'm not the only person that goes through this, right? Even though multiple things have happened this week, it's going to be okay, Judy. Let's do one thing at a time and get your crap straight. Let's just slow down a minute. So my rooster, when I got to him, his eyes were swollen shut, which indicates, okay, when it comes to the other animals, I've told you this before. I'm very confident when it comes to chickens. I know my crap when it comes to chickens. I probably could be a chicken vet. I've done surgery on chickens. I've done this long enough. I'm pretty fluent when it comes to helping a chicken. So I knew immediately what was wrong. So anytime you have an illness with the chicken, you have to immediately separate them. So you have to have a place to separate their animals. So I separate him. I give him an injection of antibiotics. I begin to start treating him. So he's in my garage crowing at 4:00 in the morning. And I'm like, oh. So it has been a tough week. So I figured that, and I want you to know something. The video that I'm putting out on Thursday, it is not sad at all. Like my video of when she sat on the piglets, I cried in the video. I was upset, but I cannot do this. My page is not supposed to bring sadness. It's supposed to bring happiness. And I noticed that my views are up when she had her babies. My views are up, like when there's good things, my views are up. But y'all, farms are not rock stars every day. We are not having babies every day and everything going fantastic. So I know sometimes it's hard to watch videos of things that we go through that's sad, but it is life. It is, and we need support, not just when they're having babies and everything is fantastic, but we also need support when everything is an absolute train wreck, and you're like, I can't watch this because this is so sad. And I get that. Like, I totally get that, because you're like, I did not come to this page to be bawling my eyes out. And so the video that I'm putting out Thursday, I tell you what's going on, but I am not bawling, and it is not a sad video. I want you to know that, because, you know, grief is hard, right? Whether it's a human being or an animal, grief is hard. And I feel like I have been through both my parents passing away, my grandparents passing away, an aunt. Like, I've been through a lot of death. You know, Shane has not. Shane doesn't. He's never went through losing a parent, so he don't quite get it. You know, like, like when it's Mother's Day, he didn't quite get how, like, you have memories of your mom. Like, when you're in grief and you've dealt with death, you know how you have certain triggers, like you can see someone that resembles the person that died, or someone says something and it reminds you of a memory and you get upset, or a holiday comes and you're like, oh gosh, my mom's not here. And you find yourself kind of grieving, even though, like, let's say they've been passed away for, my mom's been gone 14 years, right? And so, like, a trigger happens, and then it brings back a flood of emotions that you went through 14 years ago, when all of a sudden your mother died choking on a hot dog, right? That's how my mom passed away. And the flood of emotions sometimes will flood me. That's part of grief, right? It's part of grief. And when everyone handles grief differently, and I don't think there's a right or wrong way. Like, we all have to grieve in our own way. And sometimes people that don't grieve as long, they're like, you're going to have to get over this. Listen, you need to get your crap straight. She's gone. Okay. You need to stop. You cannot cry every day. You cannot let this death consume you. Like, people tell you that. And that seems like a foreign language to someone that's in the middle of grief. And you're like, you don't get it. You literally don't get it. I know it's been 14 years, but I need to grieve the way I grieve. And I think that you need to be gentle to yourself if you're in grief yourself, whether it be a human being or an animal. I think that you need to allow yourself to grieve. Now, when it comes to the point of totally consuming you, and it keeps you from getting out of the house, it keeps you from eating or sleeping, when it interrupts daily activities constantly, I feel like at that point is when you need to maybe get some grievance help, because sometimes you need to in order to get over grief, you need a little help. And you need help from, like, not the person that's going, you need to get over this. You need to get over this. Like, this is life. Like, that's not what that person needs. The person needs help getting through the grief. And that's when I think that you should seek a professional that understands grief. And just because someone can get over it in 6 months and someone's taken, let's just say, 14 years, then it's okay. Like, but get to the point where when it consumes you and interrupts your daily activities constantly, and it's been a while, then that's when you need to go, this is interrupting my happiness. Like, I'm so consumed by this death that I cannot function. I can't take care of my kids. I can't be a wife. I don't want to go out in public. Like, that's when you need to know that you need a little bit of help. And I think it's okay. I tell you guys this, and I'm not ashamed of it. I go to counseling every single week, and have since 2010. I have been with the same counselor since 2010. In 2010, when my life just came crumbling down, my husband left me for a little girl. Let's just put it like this. I lost my job. My son moved in with his father, and I literally just I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't function. I was just awful. And I said, you know what? I am grieving the loss of my husband. And I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know if this makes sense to you. Have you ever grieved the loss of someone that's still alive, but they're out of your life? That's difficult. That to me, for myself, I don't know about you, that was harder for me to deal with than a death, because they're alive, but they're out of your life. And it wasn't your choice. I had this girl, I don't know if you guys saw it. I can't remember her name, which I wouldn't say her name anyway. But she sent me this message. I'm sorry, did you get your protein this morning? I'm still dealing with Kool-Aid. And all I have is grape. Grape Kool-Aid is disgusting, but I'm drinking it. I much prefer strawberry kiwi or cherry or something like that. I'm not a grape Kool-Aid girl, but I'm drinking it because I paid for it. So anyway, this lady messaged me, and she talked about her husband, and I'm saying this because she put this on my page. So this is public information. She didn't send me a private message. This was public information. So I'm not telling her business. She began to tell me that she was a recovering addict, and she recovered, but her husband didn't. And she's been dealing, I think it was 7 years. She's been clean for 7 years, and her husband can't get past it. And she's ready to throw in the towel. And she's always dreamt of having a farm, and she wants to leave her husband and have a farm, basically. And I sent her a message, or I replied to her message that she put on my Facebook page. And I was like, you can do anything that you set your mind to. And part of grief is sometimes when you're in a marriage that is total destruction, maybe it's mental abuse, maybe it's physical abuse, maybe it's addiction and they won't get better, whatever the situation is. I want to tell you what someone said to me once when I was going through it. So in 2010, my husband up and left me, and I was devastated. I had been married for, I don't know, 10 years, let's just say. And I was devastated, and I didn't really know what was going on. And to make a long story short, he ended up coming back, and my marriage was just abusive, not physically, but mentally. And if you've ever been in a mental, abusive relationship, and I don't think that my ex-husband was mentally abusing me on purpose. I think that he had severe OCD, and I think it was just his own stuff. But his problems were triggering my problems, and I was going to get help. I was going to counseling. I was doing all this stuff, and he was doing nothing because nothing was wrong with him, right? It was all me. And so it was one of those situations. But I just think that he wasn't mature enough in his own self to really figure out himself and fix him. And it was just like, Judy, this is all you. And for the longest time, I believed it was all me. Like I wasn't good enough. I couldn't do this. I couldn't do this. But this is what, as I was in the situation where I was like, I am absolutely miserable. So if this girl that messaged me is watching this, I'm going to tell you what worked for me. I had already been divorced twice. I had been in 2 failed marriages. The last thing I wanted to do is be divorced for the 3rd time. That's embarrassing. Like, I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed, like, to tell my family. So I was sticking with it. And was I, I was caught up in my own crap. Like, I tell you how you have to take care of yourself and, you know, fix you. I was trying to fix me and couldn't fix me because of it was just crap. And I was talking to one of my friends that I trust with all my heart. And we were doing Bible study once a week, let's just say on Thursday nights. And I would go to Bible study every single night crying because it was my chance to get away from the abuse that I was in and just go, I need help. Like, I can't stop him. I'm going to counseling. I'm taking medication to try to fix my depression. Like, I can't fix this. And she looked at me and she said, because I kept telling her that, what does the Bible say about, marriage? The only way the Bible basically says is the only way you should not divorce is unless it was adultery. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about in the Bible where it says that. But I felt like if I would have left the marriage, that I was a failure for the 3rd time. Like, why can't I stay married? What is wrong with me? She looked at me and she said, Judy, because I was worried about getting a divorce for my religious beliefs. I was like, I feel like I'm sinning and I need to stick with this through thick or thin. I made a commitment to him through thick or thin, sickness and health, whatever. And I feel like I'm failing. And she looked at me and she said, Judy, your sin is not in leaving him. Your sin was in marrying someone that you shouldn't have been married to. So there's nothing wrong with you getting out of an abusive marriage. And when she said that to me, I was like, oh, so God still loves me if I leave him? And she was like, yes, Judy, yes. And so once I made that connection, I went through counseling to learn how to leave him. Isn't that crazy? But I did, because I couldn't get rid. So when someone tells me that they're in an abusive marriage and they won't out and they don't know what to do, girlfriend, I get you. I've been there. I have been in your shoes and I realize how hard it is. And just like I talked about Penny Lane, and I said I couldn't give up on her until I had known that I have done everything in my power to make it right. It's the same thing with you. If you've not done everything in your power to make it right, then you might have guilt when you leave because you're like, well, maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have done that, or whatever. But when you know in your mind that it is toxic to you and there's nothing you can do about it and you can't control them, is the moment. It was like when I finally decided to leave, it was like a load lifted off my shoulders. And my kids were like, Mom, I'm so glad you did that. And I was like, really? Really? They were like, Mom, it was awful. It was awful. Like, it was awful. And I was like, oh, well, and when my son and I finally moved, we moved into an apartment. So I went from this, marriage and nice picket fence around, that looked like this perfect marriage, to living in an apartment. And I was happier than I'd ever been in my entire life. So grieving someone that is actually alive is just as difficult, if not harder, because with death, it's like you finally come to acceptance. To me, now this was me personally, but I came to acceptance so much faster when y'all hear that rooster? He is going nuts. Um, I came to acceptance a lot faster when they were actually dead because I knew they weren't here. But when you're having to grieve a loss of someone that's still alive, that is difficult. That is difficult. And I personally couldn't do it by myself. I had to go get some professional help. Hang on. I have a field trip at 9 o'clock this morning. I messed up. And sometimes when your loved one is in the middle of addiction, and you're just like, I've had it. I cannot do this anymore. I tell you to take care of you, right? And I can tell you that I went through a 2.5-year program for families with addiction. And if you want to private message me, I'll tell you what I went through. It was the best program I've ever been in my life because I learned that addiction is a true illness. And I had to learn what that looked like. And I had to learn, to back out of my own family members' lives. And that was difficult. And again, I was grieving the loss. I haven't seen one family member in 6 years. And I miss them. I miss the heck out of them. But it was so toxic because they were caught up in addiction that I had to get away from it because it was so awful. It was just awful. So like I understand that it's hard to get out of a marriage, but again, I don't know who you serve as far as God. I'm just telling you, for me, when I heard that my sin was not in leaving my husband, but my sin was in marrying someone that God didn't choose for me, she was right. Because I didn't, it wasn't like, I wasn't right with God when I met him. And I didn't have my own life straight when I met him. And I know that marriage wasn't built upon God. I know that. So it gave me a sense, like sometimes people that serve God, we get stuck on, like sometimes living a Christian life is difficult because you think, oh my gosh, well, I'm thinking like this and this is a sin. And you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to sin against God. I guess that's another whole conversation, but let's see, how do I put this? Don't put so much pressure on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Go with your intuition. Go, your gut feeling. Usually your gut feeling is correct, no matter what situation you're in. The gut feeling that I'm talking about. I call that gut feeling the Holy Spirit, but I don't know what you call it. But the gut feeling that tells you what you need to do, you need to get so confident with yourself that you trust your gut feeling. Because a lot of times your gut feeling, people tell you that your gut feeling is wrong. Like I'm trying to think of an example. Like let's say your kids do something wrong. Okay? Let's say they're in high school and let's say they experience alcohol and you're like, I know what you're doing. I know that you are going out and drinking. Mom, you're just exaggerating, mother. No, I'm not. My friends do that, but I don't do that. But your gut feeling tells you that your kid is making wrong decisions and you're trying to correct that. And they're like telling you that you're wrong. And so then you start questioning your gut feeling. Well, maybe I'm just thinking they're doing that. maybe what I'm feeling is incorrect. No, you need to trust your gut feeling, girlfriend, boyfriend. You need to trust your intuition, okay? Because probably 99.9% of the time that you have a gut feeling, you are correct, okay? I got to the point in one time that I was going through a situation with a family member, and they were doing that to me, telling me that I was crazy and I was wrong. And I'm going to show y'all something. It's right here. I created this binder, and this is what I did. Every time a situation would come, I would write down my gut feeling about the situation. I would go address the situation, and that person would tell me that I was crazy, that I was exaggerating, that I was making up stuff, and it made me feel like I was batshit crazy. Excuse me for saying that, but it made me, for the longest time, it killed my self-esteem. But I started keeping this diary. Okay, I started keeping this diary, and I would write down again every time when someone told me, that person, let's just say, would tell me that I was crazy, I would go, okay, I'm going to write this down. So I began to journal about the situation. For 2 years, I did this. And I felt like my intuition was completely wrong because that person kept telling me my intuition was completely wrong. And to make a long story short, the day come where that person fell on their feet, or their face. I'm sorry, not their feet. They fell flat on their face and ended up in a facility trying to get help. And immediately they were like, you were right. You were right the whole time. I was just caught up. You were right the whole time. And when that happened, I pulled out my handy dandy notebook and I began to read my journal. And as I read my journal, I was sitting there squalling like a baby because when I tell you that my intuition was completely on spot, it was completely on spot. Like I did not miss one thing. Everything I felt and everything I had in my intuition was completely right. So if you're struggling with wondering if your intuition's right, I suggest you get a notebook. And the person that tells you that your intuition, this is what I would do, y'all. I am serious. When that person would send me text messages basically telling me that I was batshit crazy and that I was just making up stuff and I was exaggerating, I would print the text messages off and I would put them in my notebook. And I began to stack up evidence that I was correct and my intuition was correct. Because at the time, I was uncertain if my intuition was correct. Because I was like, am I exaggerating? Because they're telling me I'm exaggerating. They're telling me I'm crazy. Like they're telling me that everything that I feel is not correct. And so as I began to do this, and then it took 2 years. And I realized that I was the smartest daggum person in the whole wide world. Because when I went back and read every text message where they were telling me I was crazy and all this stuff, and I began to read all the feelings and the situations, like a situation would happen, and I'd go, I'm feeling like this. This is how I'm feeling. This is what's happening, and this is how I'm feeling, and they're telling me that I'm crazy. Girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever's listening to me, I'm telling you that your intuition is correct. So don't ever question it. Don't let people question that. Your intuition is usually spot on. And if you are in the situation, Lord, I'm over here preaching and look at what is going. I've got mascara all under my eyes, so we're just gonna cover it up with a little bit of foundation. If you are on the struggle bus about whether your feelings are right, like you don't know whether you need to leave your marriage, start a notebook. This is how I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling. And I promise you, when the time comes and you're ready to walk away, let's just say, you can go back to your notebook and go, okay, I have wrote down every situation that is difficult for me and how I feel. And then it's like a reassurance that you tried. Like I had to have reassurance that I tried with Penny Lane. I had to know in my power before I put her to sleep that I had done everything as a mother of that duck that I could before I put her to sleep. And now I've got makeup all over my hands and not a tissue around. So we're going to wipe it on paper. So anyway, I wrote, I was in the beginning of this conversation, I told you I did my homework and I didn't even read my homework to y'all. I just see how I go. I just go with whatever God puts on my heart. I tried to do homework and it didn't work. But I suggest you start a diary, a notebook, something. If you're having a hard time knowing if your intuition is right, start a notebook. If you're not confident in your intuition, start a notebook. That's what I did. And my makeup looks ridiculous. I didn't even put mascara on this eye. Don't follow me for makeup tips, okay? I hope this conversation helped today. It's 8:00. And if you're grieving death, if you're grieving someone that's out of your life, that's still alive, be gentle to yourself. And you know how I tell you what the word dance means to me. I mean, yes, it does mean physically dance too, because I think dancing is fun, but it means so much more than dance. When I tell you, I hope you dance, I hope that you will be kind to yourself. That's what I mean by dance. I hope that you will trust your intuition. If you don't, get the notebook. Be kind to people. Kindness goes a long way. Even when people are totally rude to you and totally beat you up, this is your opportunity to shine and make a difference. Like sometimes, people think they should quote scripture to you or quote what God says is a sin and stuff like that. It's so much gentle when you're kind and just live by example. You don't have to say a word. You don't have to quote scripture. I mean, you can quote scripture to someone that's in need to remind them what God says about this situation. But when you're kind and you're gentle, and when, like, as human beings, like, let's just say Shane's a snappy person and he says the most god awful things because he's Shane sometimes. And I want to look at him and go, oh, well, watch what's fixing to come out of my mouth. And I want to chew him up, spit him out, throw him up, and stomp on him when he's ugly. But I have found that, and not that you want someone to run over you, because you don't, but I'm just using Shane for an example. God love him. He's not mean all the time, but I'm just using him for example. But sometimes standing up for yourself is standing there in dead silence looking at them like they're a complete idiot. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you don't even have to say a word. Sometimes, not letting somebody run over you doesn't mean lashing back at them, going, Joker, you ain't gonna talk to me that way. I'll tell you what. And then, where does that get you? That gives you a headache and stress and anxiety. But sometimes just walking away, like not saying a word, just walk away. You don't have anxiety. You can just go, bless his soul, he's out of control today. He ain't talking to me that way. I'm just walking off. I'll give him 10 minutes because he He needs to go repent his sins because he is a train wreck today. You know what I mean? Like saying it to yourself, but saying it out loud just makes the situation worse. So when people attack you, um, you know, and I try to practice what I preach. I'm not always perfect, right? We're human beings. We're not perfect. We're not perfect. But I'm going to end with this. I don't know what dance means to you. I would love to know what dance means to you. Um, there's a new t-shirt coming out soon. And I think that you're going to like my new t-shirt because I really thought a lot about what kind of design I wanted to do. And I can't wait to show it to y'all. But anyway, today you have two choices. You have two choices. It's what Wednesday, it's hump day. You can sit it out and you can not trust your intuition, let people beat you up and tell you you're crazy or, that you should get over grief and you shouldn't grieve for so long or whatever. Or you can dance. And sometimes dancing means going to get your self-help, and not whatever's robbing you of your happiness keeps you from that's causing you to sit it out. Whatever situation you're in that's causing you to sit it out is causing you not to dance. And I promise you, when you dance, life is so much better. It's filled with joy. It's filled with happiness. And everyone around you it's like contagious. It's contagious. And people are like, I want what she has. And it's healing. And I don't, like I said, I'm not throwing my religion on you. I'm telling you what works for me is knowing who created me, and he knows me better than me for myself. And I'm not throwing that on you. This is a safe place to come, and I don't care what you believe. I don't care what your problem is. I don't care what you deal with, because I'm probably dealing with it too. In the end of the day, we're all alike. We're all in the same boat, trying to row the same way, okay, at the end of the day. So today, when you get the choice to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. Thank you for joining me this morning. I love y'all. I'll see you Monday.